Welcome to the Chasing Spirituality podcast. I'm your host, Megan, and I'm so excited that you're joining me today. Each episode is full of heartfelt and expansive content that will really help you expand your consciousness and grow as a person. I created this podcast because I wanted to share my own personal experiences on my spiritual journey, but I also wanted to meet others and have them share what they've been through and how they've gotten to where they are today. If you haven't done so already, it would really mean a lot to me if you could rate and review the podcast. This really helps the podcast grow and reach more people, but it also allows me to get more guests on the show. Now on to today's topic. Hello everyone, welcome back to Chasing Spirituality. I am super excited that you are here, that you're listening to this podcast. I don't know if you just recently stumbled upon this podcast or if you are a frequent listener. Either way, I'm grateful to have you and I'm excited that you're here. So before we jump into today's episode fully, we're talking about claircognizance. And I decided to record an episode on claircognizance when I realized that most of my episodes on claircognizance are some of my most popular and listened to episodes. So I figured there's definitely a need out there to know more about this spiritual gift, this psychic ability that we have. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to tell you my experiences with it, what I've learned about it, how my own claircognizance seems to work. And yeah, it's going to be a fun episode. My spirit guides have also been guiding me to record another episode on claircognizance. And they told me that I did not need to prepare, that they were going to make sure that whatever was needed to be said would be said. As always, I usually do these things intuitively. I don't prepare for many of my podcast episodes. Or, if you are a community member, I've said many times, I don't really prepare for the classes and the workshops and the circles that we do. I just let spirit guide me, and I feel like that's when I do best. When I try to prepare or plan, I usually get more frazzled and I get anxious, and it just doesn't work out the way that I envisioned it. It always works out better when I just let go and I just let spirit lead. So this will definitely have some channeled material in it for sure, and I'm super excited about that. But before we get started, I just want to share some announcements. So we are into the fall season and winter is approaching, and as many of you know that are in the northern hemisphere with me, this is a time for reflection. If you're in the southern hemisphere, then you are kind of in the opposite boat from us, but right now this is a great time for anyone in the United States or anyone over there in that region. It's just a time for reflection. It's just a time for us to go within, to give more energy, give more time and space and capacity for ourselves, hold space for ourselves more so than what we normally would. So I'm going to be putting a pause on the podcast. The podcast has not had a break in a long time. And even the last time this season rolled around, I still didn't go on a full break because I felt like I still had tons of energy and I was still putting a lot of energy outward. Well, I am not feeling that way this season. This is definitely going to be a season where I'm going to do a lot of my own inner work, a lot of my own shadows. I'll be going in and working on myself, and I'm actually really, really excited for that. I was very blessed last season to not have to retreat so much and be able to still give so much energy to others. But this season I can tell is going to be different. And the first thing that I was spiritually led to cut back on is the podcast. So the podcast will return. Don't you worry about that. I'm not going to set anything in stone at this moment, but I do foresee the podcast becoming or returning in full swing sometime in 2024. And that doesn't mean that you won't get any episodes from me for the rest of 2023, but the episodes will be very few, far between. There will be a lot of reruns, and you may get a few bonus episodes sprinkled here and there while I'm transitioning into a new season, season 3 of the podcast. But if you are not caught up on the podcast, maybe this is the first episode that you've ever listened to, or maybe you've listened to more of the recent episodes, or you've just listened to a few sprinkled out. There are over 100 episodes for you to catch up on. So feel free to go back and listen to some of those other episodes. A lot of them are channeled, a lot of them are my own personal stories. So definitely go back and listen to that if you are not caught up. I will still be around. I will still be on social media. So if you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, I will still be posting things on there from time to time. And if you're a community member, I will still be in the community posting things. We will still have our normal 3 live circles that we do every single month. If you're not a community member, you can visit my website, chasingspirituality.com, and you can find out more about what we do over there and how you can join. We do 3 live calls a month. 2 are practice circles where you actually get to practice your own psychic gifts. One is a practice circle where we just let flow. We use all of our gifts. We work together. We share. And it really allows us to get validation on what it is that we're receiving, and it's just a really cool experience. And then the other practice circle that we do monthly is focused on a specific clair. So it gives you the opportunity to work on any clair that you're really wanting to work on and use that in a practice setting with like-minded people. And the other channeling that I do, the other live that I do is a channeling live where I come on and I just channel whatever spirit has brought forth. This past one was really, really fun because my guides actually pushed me to do something a little different, and they just sent me tons of different things that I was channeling that was actually very relevant to myself and to what I was experiencing. And they just had me continuously write down different things. And so when we did the live, I read a bunch of those things and then channeled even more, and we got even deeper. And then, people got a chance to ask questions and get their own questions answered from spirit, and it was just a really neat one. I might post bits and pieces of it as an episode one day. We'll see how that goes. So let's move on to today's episode. What we're talking about the gift of claircognizance. And if you haven't listened to any of my other podcasts on the clairs or on intuition and developing your intuition, I definitely encourage you to go back and listen to those, because there's lots of helpful tips and ideas and channel messages and all kinds of things that we've talked about in those other episodes. So you don't have to listen to any of them first or anything like that. There's really no order in which is important, but they do have a lot of helpful information if you're working on developing your intuition, no matter what clair that is. Claircognizance in particular is a really difficult one to develop. It's really difficult to trust. It's difficult to work with. It's difficult to practice with and strengthen, because most of the time our claircognizance is just pure intuition. It is just this knowing, and we don't know how we know it. We just know it. We know it in our gut. You know something. And the thing about claircognizance is it's normally triggered by something. But if we're in early development, it's really hard for us to identify what has triggered that knowing. So one of the development tips that I really encourage people to do is to start being more aware of all of their clairs and how information is coming to them. If you're seeing things, if you're a very visual person and you see things in your mind, start paying attention to that more. Start paying attention to what you're seeing, what is common, what is different. How are the messages coming to you? Are they coming to you in really quick flashes? Are they like pictures? Or are you seeing more shapes and colors? Are you seeing things play out more like a movie? Is it a little bit of all of it? Are there certain times of the day when you're more visual, like at night before you go to bed or when you first wake up? Are you seeing things more in your physical environment? If you're hearing things, how are you hearing things? What is the sound of the voice that you're hearing it in? Is it outside of you? Is it like your external ear? Or is it more internal? Does it sound like you? Does it sound like a loved one? Does it sound like someone else? Does it sound masculine? Does it sound feminine? Really, really start trying to get these details on how information is coming to you. Because another common thing with claircognizance is a lot of people confuse claircognizance with clairaudience. Clairaudience is when you hear something, when you hear a word, whether it is internal or external, when you hear a thought, when you hear something. And a lot of times we're not aware that we're hearing anything. We're not aware of the thought because we're not aware of our own thoughts. And our thoughts come so quickly that we don't always catch them. The same with our imagination. Sometimes the images come so quickly that we don't even really see them, or we don't see all of them because we're not aware. So I want you to set the intention that you want to be more aware of your intuition, of your psychic senses, of your spiritual gifts. You want more awareness around your clairs and how all of them are responding to you, how you are receiving information through all of these clairs. So set that as your intention, and then work on having awareness around how you're receiving information. If you feel like you get this intuitive knowing, like you just automatically know something is going to happen, or something means something, and you don't know how. Like, let's say you just automatically know that your best friend's dog's going to run away. You don't know how you know it, but you just got this feeling out of nowhere that it's going to happen. Okay, so dive deeper into maybe what gave you that idea, what gave you that download. Did you see a dog and all of a sudden that image of that dog, or when you saw that dog, it triggered that knowing for you? Was there anything else that happened? Did you see anything? Did you see your friend's dog in your head? Did you see your friend in your head? Did you see your friend crying, saying, I lost my dog? Did you hear your friend saying, I can't find my dog? Really start thinking about everything that happened before you just got that knowing. Because a lot of times there's all of these puzzle pieces that fit together, and all of those puzzle pieces are different clairs. They're different clairs all coming together to give us the full message. Now, sometimes there is no warning. Sometimes there is nothing that we can tie it back to. Sometimes there was absolutely nothing that triggered it. But more often, there are things that triggered the message. There are things that happened that almost jolted you to receive that message. And the more awareness you have around how you're receiving these signs, how you're getting these images, these symbols, how you're getting the full message, will help you to understand yourself more. It'll help you to understand your own gifts and how you communicate with spirit, how you communicate with energy. And yes, I know, like you're probably, some of you might be thinking, well, isn't it just like the channel message that is the important part? As long as I have the end result, then just having awareness around all these other little details, does that really matter? And I believe that it does, because not every message is so direct, and not every message is easy to decipher, because some messages we're meant to build on. Some messages we're not ready to receive yet, or we don't want to accept into our reality. Some messages need more pieces for us to fit together so that we can really put that puzzle together and figure it out. So I believe that yes, it is important to have awareness around how spirit is communicating with you, how your clairs work. And if you've listened to my other episodes, you know I'm a firm believer that we use all of the clairs. I don't care if you identify as a psychic or a medium. I don't care if you don't even believe that you're a psychic or a medium or intuitive. I believe that you are, because I believe that we all are. I believe that just like we have physical senses, we also have spiritual senses. And some people's physical senses are better than others, just like some people's spiritual senses will be better than others. So you may be very, very clairvoyant because that's just the sense that you're the most accustomed to. That's your strongest sense. That's what you're most attuned to. But that doesn't mean that you don't have the other senses. It just means that you use that one sense the most often because it's what you're most comfortable with. It's how you communicate with energy the easiest. But most of the time we use all of them. They're layered. They're different pieces to the puzzle. So when you allow yourself to be more aware of how you're using your intuition, how your intuition is speaking to you, the easier it'll be for you to decode certain things, to decipher certain messages, to figure stuff out when it's not so easy. Now, in the case that it truly is just pure claircognizance, there was nothing that you can associate with it that came from another Claire. There was nothing that built up to this knowing. There were no signs, no symbols, no feelings, no nothing. Then that's just what it was. You were blessed with just having this pure download of information, this pure download of knowing. That is your intuition. That is your higher self making sure that you know something. There may not be any trail to follow, and that's okay too. The hardest part of claircognizance is when you don't have a trail, when you don't have puzzle pieces to fit together to help you figure out how you got there. Because if we heard something, we can say, well, I heard this voice. Or if we had a thought, we can say, well, I thought this thought. If we saw something, we can say, oh, well, I saw this in my head, or I saw this physically. But when it's pure just knowing, you don't have anything to go off of. You don't have anything to prove to yourself or to others that this happened to you. All you have is trust. All you have is trust in yourself, trust in your knowing. And for most people, unfortunately, they can be swayed. So if you find that you're having a really hard time with your gift of claircognizance, ask yourself, do you trust yourself? Do you believe in yourself? Because if you don't trust and believe in your own word, in your own feelings, in your own body, if you don't trust that, you're definitely not going to trust your gift of claircognizance. Because that's what it is. It's you. It's your truth manifesting. You have to be able to believe in yourself before you can believe in that. And so working on yourself, working on believing in yourself, working on your confidence, working through those fears and those self-doubts, that is what's truly going to strengthen your intuition and strengthen that ability of claircognizance. There are many ways that you can do that. There are many ways that you can work on yourself. I've done tons of episodes on shadow work and inner work and healing your wounds and working through limiting beliefs. And I've also done tons of episodes on working on your confidence and working through self-doubt and fear around communicating with spirit. And I've mentioned in the podcast that one of the most rewarding things that I ever did that really helped with my own confidence and trusting myself and my own intuition was practice circles. Practicing with people that you don't know, or practicing in scenarios where you couldn't have that information. There's no way you would have known those things. Is really, really validating because you start to see how your own intuition is right. You start to see how your own intuition works, and it gives you that faith in yourself. It gives you something to believe in. And that's really powerful when it comes to our own spiritual growth and development. So I encourage you to practice, especially in situations where you can receive validation. It is so important. And then just adding, your own personal work and your own personal development on top of that, that just really shoots it up. that's all I've been working on the last several years, is working on myself, working on trusting myself, believing in myself, working on my own confidence, working on my own truth. And I still work on those things every single day. And I've never felt better. Even though I still have bad days, I've still never felt better. Because for once, I love myself. I'm happy for myself. I appreciate me. And I think that's really important. When we're working on intuition, when we're working on being a better version of who we are, it's important to do things and put ourselves in situations and scenarios where we can push ourselves a little bit, where we can see our worth, see how great we are. So, if you're looking for practice circles, those will still be going in the community. And I'm going to miss you guys while I'm gone. If I feel inspired to record, I'm going to record. I just don't want the obligation of having to record every week. As I've mentioned before, I always want to record my podcast episodes from a place of inspiration, motivation, from a place of wanting to help others and give my fullest. And right now, I know that I cannot give my fullest every single week. I have to give back to myself, so I will not be on a regular schedule. But like I said, if I feel inspired, I will definitely put that out there, whether it's on a podcast episode or a blog post or a TikTok video or a channeling for the community. I will still put it out there because I never want to stop myself from being inspired, from creating content when I truly feel like creating it. So I will see you guys around. Make sure that you follow me on social media so we can stay in touch. If you haven't checked out my website, I do have blog posts over there. A lot of them relate to these podcast episodes. However, some of them don't. And yeah, I will be seeing you guys soon. I hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time. This is for anyone who resonates with this podcast and is interested in more spiritual content. Have you checked out the Chasing Spirituality community? Well, you can find out more on my website, chasingspirituality.com. But this community is a wonderful place for you to meet like-minded people, but also be supported in your own authentic expression as you go on your spiritual journey and you learn more about fascinating topics, as well as exercise your own spiritual and intuitive gifts. We have lives every single month. There's meditation videos and courses and tons of extra bonus content and videos. So if you're interested in more content, please go check that out. We would love to have you.